I'm Kathy with a C.
And I'm Kathy with a K.
And this is Killer Destinations. Today's destination is Los Angeles, California, but we're not even going to get into it.
You all know where it is. You all know what it's like.
Exactly. There's really cool restaurants, too many homeless people, and a lot of smog, but otherwise it's wonderful.
Exactly.
And Kathy and I are going to do something a little bit differently today. We're going to talk about the upcoming court proceedings for defendant David Burke, the 21-year-old accused of murdering 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez.
And this is an ongoing, evolving process. So, of course, as we did our research into this case, we have gone to a lot of different sites to get up-to-date information. But most of the information that we're going to be referencing is from a prosecution brief that was filed for an upcoming preliminary hearing. This is the first information that has actually come out of the prosecutor's office because they actually sealed the case, so none of the information could leak out to other sources.
Exactly. And they might unseal the search warrants after the preliminary hearing takes
Fingers
place.
crossed.
Yeah, exactly. But the prosecution filed a brief and the defense did not want this information disclosed, but the judge says, no, it's fine. And so the judge basically said, look, I know you're afraid that the jury pool is going to be contaminated, but it's going to be a long time before trial. We have a very diverse and large population in LA County. You're going to get unbiased jurors in the future. So everything started back on September 5th of 2025. This is the day that a Tesla with a Texas license plate was towed from a street called Doheny Place in the Hollywood Hills. It had already been ticketed, and it was in a 72-hour parking zone, and it wasn't moved once it was ticketed, so it was towed, and it was taken to Hollywood Tow. While at Hollywood Tow, employees of the tow company started complaining about how smelly this Tesla was. So what happens is on day 3, the manager of Hollywood Tow has had enough of the strong smell of decay and the presence of flies coming from the vehicle. The manager decided to notify the LAPD. So he called the Hollywood Division auto detectives who basically come out and, Kath, I'm sure they took one whiff and knew exactly what it was.
They probably didn't even need to get within 50 feet of it.
Exactly. Like the smell of decomposition is extremely distinct. So anyway, the LAPD detectives opened the Tesla's front storage compartment and saw a black cadaver bag covered with insects. And they opened it up and they found a decomposed head and torso. Once they removed the cadaver bag, they discovered a plastic garbage bag had been sitting underneath it, and that contained dismembered arms and legs. However, the victim's ring finger and pinky fingers of her left hand were missing. They had been cut off and they were not found inside the Tesla. About a week later, the LA County Medical Examiner's Office positively identified the remains from dental records. They belonged to 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. And Kath, they actually located her body just one day after her 15th birthday. But they believed, based upon the
decomp,
exactly, that she had been there quite some time. And it turned out a year and a half before this, Celeste had been reported as a missing person. So we don't know a lot about Celeste. We know that she lived about 75 miles away in Riverside County, specifically in a city called Lake Elsinore, and she lived with her parents. Her parents were immigrants from El Salvador. Celeste was the third child. I believe they had 4 in their family. I know she had an older brother and sister, and she may have had a younger sibling, like a baby.
We saw a picture with the family. The picture identified the 3 older children. It did not identify the baby. Celeste was 10 years old in the picture, and this baby looked like new baby.
New baby, exactly. So we do know that Celeste attended Lakeland Village School in Lake Elsinore and that she was in 8th grade at the time of her murder.
Her mom was actually quoted in the paper, I think it came through their attorney, that Celeste loved to sing, she loved to dance, and she loved spending time with her friends. So Kathy, it turned out that the Tesla with the Texas plates in the tow yard was owned by a 20-year-old man named David Burke. And Kathy, when he spoke to police, he told them he knew Celeste, but at this point, Kathy, he was on a worldwide tour because he had just dropped his very first album. As soon as the concert was over, and I think he was in Minneapolis.
I think he was too, but I'm honestly not sure.
So he was somewhere in the middle part of the country. We'll go with that.
Yep.
He actually headed back to talk to police. Now, Kathy, it turned out, so we're here now, 2025. He's becoming a well-known musician. He actually met Celeste in January 2022 when she was 11 and he was 16. There's conflicting reports about how they met, but basically the one that has the most traction is that David's rise to fame was actually kind of a strange route. He was from Texas and he was homeschooled for most of his teenage years, and he was known as a huge gamer. That's where he actually started coming into the public's consciousness. He used to do Fortnite. He would do it in large forums. Everybody knew who he was. He would stream what he was doing. He moved to YouTube, got a huge audience, and he started borrowing tracks from other artists to add to his gameplay to kind of jazz it up. But all of a sudden, YouTube had come out a few years prior that YouTube said that anybody who was using music that was borrowed from other artists, they were going to be shut down. You could not use somebody else's track without their express written permission. So David's mom actually said to him, why don't you do it? You fiddle around with music, just make your own tracks. And so he did. And he got big not only on YouTube, but he also got really big on TikTok. And so this is early 2022, and he actually connected with Celeste on a Discord server having to do with online gaming. And over the next year or so, he was getting bigger, and his mom said to him, hey, you've had success with these tracks you're laying down. Why don't you do a song and put it out on social media and see what kind of traction you get? And so he did. And the very first song he put out there, which he called Romantic Homicide, it went viral on TikTok. He went up to 4 million followers, and it wound up registering on the Billboard 100. So now he's got all sorts of attention coming to him from record companies and other people who wanted to help him make money and help him make money for them too.
And so, Kath, she meets him January 2022, like you said. And I think it was September of the same year. So like 8 months later, isn't that when he signed his first contract?
It is.
And so she's 11, he's 16, and he's now a millionaire.
He's now a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
The first contract was $3 million.
Yeah, $3 million up front.
Yeah. And then up to $6 million if his record did well.
Right.
And then they start planning a tour.
Right, exactly. He was in the process of building an album. And so his first album was called Withered.
And in the meantime,
he's doing
duets with a lot of other artists on the same label.
Right.
So that he's just building his profile more and more and more.
Exactly.
So we're going to fast forward now to November of 2023. This is about a year after he signed his record contract. So he's now 18 and Celeste is now 13. And it's around this time that Celeste's family called the Riverside County Sheriff's Department and said, our daughter's missing. She's 13. We don't know where she is. Her friends don't know where she is. Can you help us find her? So the detectives go over and talk to them. The first thing the detectives asked was, does she have a cell phone? And they said, yeah, but she took it with her. And they said, let's go to the phone company. She's a minor. And so what they were able to do, Kathy, is pick up her prior phone calls. And there was a number that kept appearing again and again. And so they called it. And it turned out that it was David Burke's phone number. So the Riverside County Sheriff's Department called and he said, well, yeah, I know her. I spoke to her like February 13th, 14th, somewhere around there. This is just a few days prior to when the parents had reported her missing. And the detectives were like, you're 18. Do you realize she's a minor? And he said, no, I didn't know she was a minor. And I only met her once 4 or 5 months ago. But Riverside said, we're going to send some folks from the LA County Sheriff's Department to talk to you at your house. So please be there. So Riverside County requested that the Sheriff's Department in LA conduct a welfare check at David's home. And when they got to his home, it was about 8:15 that night. They reiterated, hey, she's 13. She ran away. He's like, I told Riverside, I only met her once in person. It was back in November of 2023. So like 4 months earlier. But David did show the deputies that he had a photo of Celeste on his phone. It was one of her yearbook photos.
Which, by the way, the deputy was like, okay, that's weird. He has a picture of her yearbook photo in his phone and he only met her once. Okay.
Exactly. But David said, hey, still don't know where she is. Good luck finding her. And 2 days later, Celeste returned home. It turns out that despite being informed by law enforcement several times that Celeste was only 13, David continued to pursue her. After she returned home in February of 2024, this was just a couple of days after LA County Sheriff's deputies talked to David and he said, sorry, don't know her very well. Her parents took her phone away. And they were like, Missy, you're not getting out of this house with a cell phone again. We don't know who you're talking to. It turned out that 18-year-old David drove to Lake Elsinore and paid a junior high school student $1,000 to give Celeste a cell phone that he had purchased for her. And the student did. So throughout all of 2024, Kath, Celeste and David were in constant contact, and they spent a lot of time together. We're talking weekends, traveled with him to Las Vegas, to Texas to meet his parents, and one trip was even to London over the summer while she was out of school.
So here's the thing. A lot of people are speculating, like, how did she get to London? She was a minor, et cetera, et cetera. And that's probably all going to come out during the trial. But when I think of this case, I just really believe these parents didn't have a chance. They come over here. I know mom doesn't speak English. I don't know about dad. They do the responsible thing. They take the phone from her, but it is alleged that he pursued her. And everything we're saying are allegations. Kathy and I are talking about all the allegations. He is innocent unless proven guilty. But if what the prosecution is saying is true, they just didn't have a chance. He drives 75 miles, gets her a secret cell phone, and she was 11 and she was on a Discord server for gamers.
It's like Roblox.
Exactly. And they have no idea. They don't know that she's behind the scenes doing these things. Obviously, they found out that she had this guy, David. But what I don't know and what I'm curious about is, how did these trips come about? How did these trips happen?
And where did her parents think she was?
Correct. And it has been speculated that the parents received money from David because he was very wealthy, obviously, at this point.
But there's no proof.
No proof. And I've seen articles where the mother's like horrified and saying no. But be that as it may, you have a 13-year-old girl, 11 when he meets her, but 13 when they begin intimate relations. And a 13-year-old girl's brain is not working in reality. And I told you ages ago, your sister and I worked on a case together where there was a girl lured away by a pedophile.
Right.
She was 13. She thought this was romance.
And that's what they're counting on, though. And that's the problem. They are predators, pure and simple. They know how to manipulate young girls.
And it's easy to hide things from parents.
Not only that, but her parents were immigrants. I'm guessing they didn't have a lot of money as they were trying to build their life. The parents were working and whatnot. And all of a sudden, you've got this guy who's showering her with money, with gifts, showing her a life that she doesn't have. I have no doubt she was romanticizing the whole thing.
Of course. She thinks she's going to be a queen.
Exactly. So anyway, Kathy, as part of these phone records detectives were able to get, they also were able to get the text exchanges between the two of them. And even though David had said, me, 18-year-old, am not having sex with her 13-year-old, their text messages said something entirely different. And it contained not only very graphic text messages, but some photos in there as well. And throughout 2024, David and Celeste continued to contact each other. And at the end of 2024, they broke up for a period, but continued to communicate. And then text messages after that suggested that they still continued to have sex. So fast forward, we're now in September 2025. Celeste's body was found, and David has flown home to talk to detectives. And what we know at this time is that David was the very last person to use his vehicle. They had surveillance videos that showed David drive the black Tesla to a spot about 400 feet from where his house was. It was just around the corner, and park it and get out and walk home. Nobody else touched the Tesla until the tow company came to remove it.
And so, Kath, as you know, as the universe knows, once this little girl's body was found, people started going nuts when they realized that they had a murdered 14-year-old girl who'd been involved in a romantic relationship for over a year with an adult. Like, it was gross. Supposedly. Allegedly. Anyway, so people started scouring the internet and then going on the same Discord server that they were on, pulling off photos. I mean, they were doing everything they could to show the two of them together.
Internet sleuths are a thing.
I know. And God love the people who have the time to do this.
Exactly.
But, there were pictures that I saw where he and Celeste were with his family. At least that's what was represented in the photograph that I was looking at.
Well, and remember we said that she had gone off to Texas with him for long weekends during the summer.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, so it was abundantly clear that there was a relationship and it was illegal, and detectives had a lot to work with. Let's put it that way. And again, they also knew, based on decomp, that her body had been in that trunk for a long time. It turns out that once they interview David, detectives essentially wait patiently. They start collecting evidence. They're issuing search warrants for things. They have his vehicle impounded, and they actually convene 3 grand juries for purposes not of handing down an indictment, but for purposes of investigation. And once you have a grand jury, that means you have a case number attached to something, and you now have subpoena power. They also have search warrant power, but you can subpoena witnesses to come to these grand juries. And so it was really an investigatory, fact-finding mission. And so her body was found in September. They had 1 grand jury convened in November, I think, 1 in December, and 1 in February of 2026. But they were taking their time and they were being methodical. And what we now know is that they issued search warrants for his phone records, her phone records, which can not only tell you who you texted and who you called, but who called you and who texted you, as well as where the phone was located. They're collecting cell tower data. They also analyzed his Tesla, and I don't know what kind of system the Tesla would have had, but you can get data to determine whose phone is attached to the vehicle at certain times. And so it's just, there's a plethora of electronic information now, as you can imagine. So when detectives are doing their investigation, they created this timeline based largely on the electronic data, especially the cell activity. And they believed that April 23rd, 2025 was likely the date that Celeste was killed. And so here's what happened. The night before that, April 22nd, David and Celeste were having an argument.
But the argument wasn't on the phone like I expected. They were actually arguing using text messages.
I know. That just seems like a really inefficient way to argue.
Yeah. You can't be loud enough on a text message.
And you can't be fast enough. It's like, if I'm going to get into a fight, you better be in front of me, because then maybe I can hit you too. But
exactly.
But anyway, the message showed that Celeste was jealous over David's relationship with other women, and that she thought they had a future together. And of course she did. She was 14.
And had actually been involved with him for about 3 years at this point.
Yeah.
That's a huge chunk of her life.
Oh, totally. So remember, this is April 22nd when they get into a fight. His first album, Withered, was to be released just 3 days later on April 25th, 2025. It's a big day. He's releasing his first album. It's going to go crazy. Everyone's going to love it. The day before that, so April 24th, there's going to be a release party. And I know in my heart of hearts, at this point, he's a phenom. Everybody knows who he is. And the people around him know he's dating a minor. He is a 20-year-old man dating a 14-year-old girl. So with this release party coming up, I know in my heart of hearts, and this is a speculation warning, that he told her, you're not coming to the release party. Because I am sure his, the talent agency that signed him was like, hey, enough already.
Ex-nay on the Einer May.
Exactly. We don't need to be Epsteined here, people. We do not need this kind of controversy. Keep your minor girlfriend at home.
But the funny thing is, I don't think David looked like he was very old either.
No, he looked like a baby.
He did, because at 21, he's 5'4" and 120 pounds.
He was a little feller.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So honestly, part of me was thinking I'm sure they looked like they were both 13 and 15.
Totally. And she's 5'2".
Yeah. So she was a little petunia as well.
Exactly. Anyway, so what detectives think was that he doesn't want her around because she's a minor and he's going to mess things up and whatever. It's a bad look. So Celeste now knows that she doesn't have a future with him, despite the fact that she thought she did. And according to the prosecution, she became very upset and threatened to disclose damaging information about her relationship with him, which could have ended his career and destroyed his life.
And that's all in text messages. So this isn't supposition on the detective's part.
Correct. So 2 days before the release party, they have a fight. So what happens is the day after their fight, he sends an Uber to her to the Lake Elsinore home. And this is like 8:45-ish at night. And basically, she's taken to his Hollywood Hills home, and she gets there a little bit after 10 o'clock. By 10:30, according to the prosecution, David is sending text messages to Celeste saying, "Where are you? Where are you?" And so the prosecution basically says this is when he's trying to cover his tracks. This was a premeditated plan to get her to his home so he could kill her, so she doesn't ruin the rest of his life. The prosecution basically says in this brief that David stabbed Celeste multiple times and stood by while she bled out. Then, despite the fact that she was dead and her family was trying to find her, he just kept claiming, "I don't know where she is. I don't know where she is." But here's the funny thing, not funny, haha, but funny like, So the prosecution also says that after Celeste was murdered, David drove to Santa Barbara County, and they believe that he was doing it to dispose of property. So this is like a, I don't know, probably 2.5 hour ride north up the 101. And he drives there on the night of April 23rd, which is the night the prosecution says the murder occurred. And during his drive, he's texting her and calling her saying, "Where are you? Where are you? What's going on?" And of course, they're saying, you know what? This was totally calculated. He's trying to pretend that he has no idea. She never arrived at his house, that kind of thing.
And he's worried about her.
But of course, because they have the data from the Tesla, I'm sure they know that his phone was connected to the Tesla as it was driving away.
Right. He wasn't at home waiting for her.
Yeah. And so he goes to a lake. It's called Lake Kachuma in Santa Barbara County, which, by the way, was the very first place I went camping ever in my life. I was in 4th grade and I got the chicken pox and my mom had to come and get me.
Oh, she was pissed.
She was so mad. She was so angry she had to come get me. But
4 kids at home and she had to come get you because you had the audacity to get chicken pox?
Totally. And then I just spread them to everybody. My entire 4th grade class got chicken pox.
What about your siblings?
Oh yeah, everybody did. I hated, God, it was like torture, chicken pox. And that was back when
you wouldn't do well in war.
Yeah. No, I would not. So anyway, David drove to Lake Kachuma in Santa Barbara County. He returned home early the following morning, and then he goes to a radio interview for the release of his album. He sends more text messages to Celeste's phone that, of course, went unanswered because she was no longer alive. And then the day after his album is released, he no longer attempts to contact her again.
But Kathy, the next thing that comes out in this brief starts the day after police believe Celeste Rivas Hernandez was killed. Looking at David's financial records, Kathy, they find that on April 24th, so the day before the launch party, David actually went on to Postmates and ordered a shovel from Home Depot. A couple days after that, he went to Amazon, got 2 chainsaws delivered to his house. A few days after that, we're now more than a week after they believe she was killed, he ordered from Amazon a body bag, heavy-duty laundry bags, and a blue inflatable pool. All of these were sent to his house. He made the purchases under the fake name Victoria Mendez, and Kath, it doesn't say in the brief how they knew he was the one using that fake name to order these things. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I'm assuming that they just backtracked. It was probably, in other words, it was sent to his
credit
address.
Yeah, but it could have been the maid.
That's true.
Pool boy.
True. Another true statement.
Cousin. Could have been anyone. So anyway, he's making all these purchases. And then inexplicably, Kathy, after that, May 8th and May 31st, he goes back up to Santa Barbara. I don't know what he was doing up there. I do know that at the beginning of this year, in January of 2026, there were state troopers who found Celeste Rivas's passport card and some other items. But I still don't understand why he was going there so many times.
I don't get it.
Unless he just heard about how great camping was there for Girl Scouts and decided that he was good. You weren't a Girl Scout, though.
I was not a Girl Scout. I was not allowed to be in Girl Scouts because my mom didn't want to drive me anywhere. My mom was too busy having fun.
It's very true. But then, Kathy, in addition to all of these other tools that David had ordered, in July, so we're now 3 months after the murder, he then again went to Amazon and had them deliver a burn cage to his home as part of a plan to incinerate evidence.
And one of the things, Kath, is we said that 2 of her fingers were missing.
Right.
And it is because she had tattoos on them. One of the tattoos was like SHHH, and the other one was his name. In one of the newspaper articles that I read, it said that she was found with the tattoo on her.
It was on her right ring finger. His name, which was chopped off, was on her left ring finger.
Okay.
And so it was that finger and the pinky finger on the left hand that were taken.
But I don't know, why did they take both? Why did the killer take both?
Might have just been easier.
Okay.
My assumption was the saw was used and it was just easier than to do precise sawing to get a finger off. I don't know. I've never cut fingers off, so I'm not sure.
I don't even know why I asked you that question.
I'm not sure why you did either, but...
She was found with one tattoo.
Correct.
But not his name.
Correct.
But anyway.
Then it just keeps getting worse from there. So they know that he's ordered these things. The police get search warrants to go into his house. They go into the garage and they find essentially where they believe David had cut up her body. One of the things that they found in the cadaver bag and then in the bag with some of her other limbs were little pieces of blue plastic that was embedded in the skin. And Blue Pool was in the garage when they searched it. This is months later. And not only did it have horizontal cuts that you would have used with a saw, but it had pieces of plastic missing from it.
And the coroner matched him up.
Correct.
Yeah.
But Kathy, they were also able to find blood in this pool, and they were actually able to match it to Celeste's DNA. So they had their confirmation that that was where Celeste had died and where she had been dismembered.
And Kath, there was, like newspaper articles and things like that, lots of YouTube videos on this that say people from his record label as well as friends were complaining about the smell. Like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And so if the prosecution's timeline is accurate, this poor girl was in that trunk for what, like 3 months and change?
Yeah. But the thing is that we had talked about David having this big launch party in April, right after he killed her. Well, this worldwide tour was set to kick off at the end of July. And so just the day before he left on tour was when he got into the black Tesla and drove it over to the place just around the corner from his house and parked it there. Because, like you said, they were complaining he couldn't leave it there in case they discovered something.
Mm-hmm. So in the brief, the prosecution goes through evidence that they intend to admit in trial. And some of it included photographs. So inappropriate sexual material of a minor.
She was 13, remember?
When the sexual behavior began. Yes, exactly. Anyway, so because it's child sexual abuse material, and there's a ton of it, they took 40 terabytes of information from all of his sources, computer, tablets, car, phone, blah, 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 blah.
And his phone alone was 4 terabytes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's huge.
Like his iCloud, massive.
Yeah.
Anyway, so because he had this, sexual abuse material on his phone, you can't just get that in discovery. It's illegal to have.
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody's heard that too, because I had heard it as well, that the defense was complaining that they weren't being given the discovery from the prosecution.
Yeah.
And Kathy cleared that up for me.
So you have to make an appointment essentially with the prosecutor's office and go through all the stuff that they're saying is illegal to have.
Like you have to go to their location to do it. They can't put it on a drive.
Correct.
They can't email it to you because then you're transmitting CSAM.
Exactly. And so there's all sorts of evidence out there that the defense has yet to see. So let me back up a little. David was arrested on April 16th of 2026. Okay. And so he is being held in the LA County Jail with no bond. He is not allowed to pass go or collect his $200 or whatever. He has to stay in jail. So 4 days later, he pled not guilty to all the charges. But I just want to let you know what the charges are. He is charged with, first of all, murder. And there are 4 special allegations. One is murder for financial gain, murder to prevent testimony, murder by lying in wait, and use of a deadly weapon. He's also charged with mutilation of remains and continuous sexual abuse of a child. So a lot of people were sort of waiting with bated breath because on April 29th, just 2 days ago from the date we're recording, he was supposed to have a preliminary hearing. And there is no way that that thing was going to go through because the defense just did not have time to prepare. Even though the defense attorney stands up in court and says, Your Honor, they have the wrong man. He didn't do this, yada, yada, yada. And then the defense attorney talked about how she wanted a speedy trial.
And then the judge laughed at her.
Yeah. And the prosecution was like, okay. And she was like, just kidding.
Haha, no, we psych.
Yeah. But anyway, so they continued the preliminary hearing. There are 2 dates currently on calendar. One is May 12th of 2026 and one is May 26th of 2026. It's being reported that May 26 is actually the prelim, although on the court records, they have both of these dates as preliminary hearing. The May 12th one very well could be a status conference, or it might be the beginning of the prelim. I don't know. I think this one, the prosecution is going to do everything they can to bring out the whole dog and pony show.
Not only that, you talked about how much evidence is there that cannot be taken out of the prosecutor's office, possession, anything like that. That's a lot to sit through.
I can't imagine.
And so how are they doing that in 3 weeks?
I don't think they're gonna.
Yeah.
My theory is no, it's not going forward in May. But anyway, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in May. I can't imagine the prelim's going to go forward, but that's just me.
And we will give you updates on social media, unless it's anything of any substance at all. And we'll jump right to giving you a quick update on the podcast if it has any sort of merit to it.
Exactly.
Based on our observations. But, actually based on Kathy's. I'm not an attorney. I just play one.
Exactly.
I haven't received my degree yet.
Yeah.
At the Killer Destination School of Law.
Oh my God, you're right. We still have to issue you and Kim Kardashian a certificate.
Okay, but she hasn't passed the bar yet.
I know, but don't discriminate. She gets a certificate.
Okay, fine.
She has a big butt. It made my life easier.
It's now cool.
Exactly. Oh my God.
It brings all the boys to Kathy's yard now.